Plastic pollution is a global problem. The UN Environment Program says every minute, nearly one garbage truck full of plastic waste is dumped into our oceans. Here's a look at just some of that plastic from the Pacific Ocean. Single-use plastics are everywhere, and honestly, a big part of our daily lives. Helping us make sense of this problem and sharing ways to reduce plastic consumption is eco-expert Karishma Porwal. Thank you for coming in this morning.
Hi, thank you for having me.
So collectively, we produce about 400 million tons of plastic waste every year. And when you say it like that, it feels staggering, it feels overwhelming. How did we get here?
Yeah, I mean, plastic was invented in the early 19th century, and it was celebrated for being indestructible, which is ironic because that's kind of the reason we dread plastic today. And I would say plastic kind of doesn't go away. So a plastic bottle that you throw away today is going to be around for your great-great-grandchildren to find. And we all know it's a very visual, very palpable problem. We've seen images of plastic trash kind of strewn across our oceans and beaches. And we've seen those heartbreaking videos of animals, ocean animals like whales and dolphins, getting trapped in plastic or even ingesting it.
So what plastics produce, we talk about this a lot too, is microplastics, and they are everywhere, and they are harmful not only to the environment, but also to us. What plastics are producing this?
Yeah, well, so when it comes to microplastics, we don't know everything about them just yet. Scientists are still learning about them. But what we do know is that microplastics are tiny pieces of plastic about the size of a sesame seed or smaller, and they're released when larger plastic debris is just left sitting out. What we do know about microplastics as well is that they can pass through filtration systems and into our waterways. We also know that they can pass through our gut barrier into our bloodstream. So a variety of different plastics can release microplastics, all the way from the polyester in our clothing to disposable tea bags if we put them in our hot water. And if you drink if you drink water from plastic water bottles, then that's also something that we should be watching out for.
I think that's something we don't think about is how many things plastic is in, like the polyester. It would never occur to me, obviously, to say, oh, this is plastic.
Yeah, yeah.
We talk a lot about plastic and what to do with it once we already have it, but you say it's also important to talk about how plastic is made. Why is that?
Yeah, I mean, I think because plastic trash and plastic pollution is such a visual problem, that the conversation really focuses around what happens to plastic at the end of its life, right? And we don't talk enough about how it's made. And at the end of the day, plastic is made from petrochemicals. And air pollution from these petrochemical factories can have huge health consequences for neighboring communities. So increased rates of lung cancer and cardiovascular disease are included in that. So I think it's an ignored part of the problem that we should definitely be more aware of.
It's not about just recycling, it's also about reducing, and reducing also goes into how it's made. Obviously, if we're producing less, we're using less. You do have a few tips to share on how to reduce our plastic consumption. So walk us through what we should be doing.
Yeah, totally. There are so many ways to eliminate plastic from our lives, but I think that the poster child for the plastic-free movement is the reusable cotton tote bag. And we've been seeing more and more people take their reusable bags to the grocery store, and that's great. But I just want to remind everyone that, we can also use what we have at home. That's just as good. So if you have those plastic disposable grocery bags from the last time you went grocery shopping, just keep them in your car or in your bag for the next time you go, right? We don't always have to buy a shiny new tote bag. In that same vein, a lot of our plastic waste comes from food packaging, and there's ways to cut down on that too. So going to the farmer's market or going to bulk refill stores and taking our own containers if that's accessible to us. And then also, we can always email our favorite brands and ask them, what are your plans to reduce plastic waste? Because our voice as consumers matters a lot more than we think, right? And then microplastics. If you're concerned about microplastics, you're going to want to think about clothing materials. So polyester releases microplastics every time that it's washed. So you're going to want to think about non-plastic-based fabrics, things like cotton and linen, and these usually last longer as well.
I love the idea of using what you already have. One of the grocery stores in my area has started putting out the boxes that they receive the food and all of the stuff that they have in the store. They've been putting them out as an option for consumers to grab because you're right, it does fall on the consumer to deal with a lot of that plastic. Reaching out to your favorite brands, great tip as well. It's great to have you on the show today.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks so much for coming in. Hey, thanks for watching. If you liked this, be sure to subscribe here, or you can check out more Your Morning videos right here.